I like to call this case study "What's in the Box." We were hired by a client to help them try to find a storage locker. To kind of set the stage, we had a client who, on his deathbed, basically announced to his brother and his cousin that he had a storage locker that contained $2 million in silver bars. The interesting thing about it was this could not be located. Nobody knew the actual location of the locker. Nobody was even sure that the locker existed, but there were rental car receipts. There were, transaction, documents that were really showing that this thing likely existed. And so we were hired to try to find out, does this locker exist, and literally where is it? And so we were taking the rental car receipts. We were taking the mileage information from those receipts. We were looking at the gas receipts. We were looking at the toll receipts, and we're ultimately looking at the information to try to figure out where this storage locker existed. We were using the phone to try to recreate the GPS information to ultimately figure out where this locker was. And so we actually were able to chart out the radius and ultimately figure out all the different storage locker places that were within the radius that we were able to establish by looking at the receipts, by looking at the mileage and what have you from these documentation, and ultimately chart out where this was. And then it was literally human time to literally call every single storage locker place in North Jersey to ultimately say, did this exist, and find this locker. What was amazing was, in the end, we were able to do this, and it took us 2 years to be able to go through and figure all this information out. In the end, we did find the storage locker, but what was disappointing was when it was opened, the locker was empty. And so there may have been these $2 million worth of silver bars in there at one point in time, or it could have just been a situation where they were never there in the first place. And so these still exist as far as we know. They're somewhere out there. And so, we're still sort of generally searching for these. But it was really interesting for us to be able to go through and look at the documents and figure out what we had, go through and really, map out the radius that could exist. And it was really an interesting opportunity because it gave us a chance to look at documents that you don't normally look at, looking at mapping information, looking at the GPS coordinates, and then literally going to a real map and charting it out. Was really exciting and was really kind of fun because it's a piece of the puzzle that you don't always do. You always go to email, you always go to server documents, but GPS coordinates and looking at these are sort of out of the normal. And so this was exciting because it gave us a chance to do that. It also sort of reminded us to go back and think about other sources of documents and try to figure out where else data could exist that we might not have otherwise realized, we might not have otherwise thought of. And so this is really a good case to kind of end on because it's a reminder that you can't leave anything behind. You have to uncover all the stones, and you have to uncover all the data sources that could be relevant, because honestly you never know what's going to really be the thing that helps you find the documents you need, helps you prove your case, helps you ultimately do the analysis that you're going to do, and what have you. And so this was really a good reminder of that situation.